Hey guys, before we get into today's video, I just want you guys to keep a few things in mind. This review contains my personal opinion. Personal opinions are not attacks. Also, this is a very spoiler-heavy review, so if you have not played Dead Space and you don't want any spoilers, this is your last chance to back out of this video now. If you don't mind spoilers, then by all means, stay for the entire video. I don't do spoiler-free reviews anymore, so all of my reviews are going to be very spoiler-heavy, so viewer discretion is advised. There's also a trigger warning being added to this review as well, just in case, because there are mentions of and other morbid discussions. So with that in mind, enjoy the video. Traveling into an echoed emptiness of a classic was an intimidating task. Dead Space is a horror action title that was released October 13th, 2008. This game was the first of its kind that inspired such titles as Alien Isolation and Returnal. Dead Space honed in on an atmosphere, a slow burn, and brilliant voice acting, but falls short when delivering a strong narrative. What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome back to the reviews. Today, I'm going to be diving into my review of Dead Space Remake, which you guys saw me struggle through immensely in my playthrough. There's a little bit of this, a little bit of that I could put in there. Basically, this review is a cohesive jambalaya of sorts. So yeah, let's get right into it, and let's hope the necromorphs don't attack me from my point of view. Throughout my journey with Dead Space, there were down moments and there were high impact moments. The down moments held little to no substance, and the high impact moments were either a hit or a miss most of the time. There were 4 moments throughout the game that I thought truly hit the marker for me. The introduction of Dr. Mercer, the death of Hammond, Kendra revealing the truth of who she is and the story of the marker, Kendra showing Isaac the full tape Nicole had left him. That's it. Those were the significant story points for me as I traversed through Dead Space. Other than that, it was incredibly predictable and created little to no interest for me as the game progressed. There is a story, and there are points and themes and plot lines, but it's so submerged in the chaos of fighting necromorphs and fixing things that I felt as if the story didn't shine the way I had hoped it would. I also felt as if there were so many of the story points that were in notes and that were in audio dialogues, much like Signalis, of where the majority of the story was in notes. That's the majority of the story, and I feel as if, again, if players don't dig and they don't listen to the notes, they won't get the abundance of the story for what it actually can provide the player. The necromorphs, infectors, lurkers, leapers, etc. all had promising first impressions. I loved seeing the necromorphs when I first played a bit of the original, and now seeing them all polished up and even more deadly looking was a treat. After a while though, the charm wore off. The honeymoon phase was no more, and at certain points they even started to get a tad annoying. With the excitement of a new game slowly but surely wearing off, and me slowly but surely becoming more and more irritated with the fact that this game was becoming rather repetitive, I found myself at a possible stalemate around Chapter 7, where I wasn't really enjoying myself, but I knew I wanted to finish the game and give it a chance, which obviously I did. Seeing the different cutscenes, hearing the transmissions, and viewing how the character interactions grew and evolved, I can say with confidence that Dead Space was great for its time, but for someone like myself, and possibly other players who have desensitization to horror and or are playing it for the first time this year, it's underwhelming to go through. I understand this game's significance and importance in the horror genre, but as someone who has played so much horror over the course of my life, it takes more than cutting off limbs and creepy-looking atmospheres to really wow me anymore. Isaac's journey with seeing dead people in the Ishimura, fixing other people's problems, both literally and equipment-wise, just to purely survive, by the skin of his teeth, and to be left broken and exhausted left a sour taste in my mouth. I hoped to better understand the story, but instead I was left with crumbs to try to piece together. And that's the sad part, because, as I will mention in a little bit, the voice acting and the atmosphere were 2 of the best things about this game. Why the story didn't have that same kick, that same substance, is beyond me. Oh, and the mechanics. The mechanics is another incredible part, but I will get into that as we go on next. And for me personally, I could say right now, I get why people were comparing Dead Space and Callisto Protocol, but for me personally, I found Callisto Protocol, as boring as some of the parts were, way more fascinating story-wise. It's still, the story of Callisto Protocol, it didn't really amp up until almost the end of the game, but still, I feel like it had more substance than Dead Space does. The mechanics in this game, besides the voice acting and atmosphere, is the best part. The variance in the ways to kill an enemy is really creative and borderline disgusting, which isn't that the fun part? The intensity in which Isaac smashes creatures, stomps on them, or even conducts conversations with other characters is intense, and you feel how over everything he really is at certain points. The voice acting in this game is on another level of incredible, from emotionally charged scenes of finding out Kendra was essentially the bad guy, to seeing that Nicole, in the end, was dead after all, made me not dislike the whole game. It shocked me how incredible the voice acting, the atmosphere, and graphics were, but the pacing and flow of the story just didn't connect in the same way as everything else did, or in a way that I had hoped for. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the quality of life aspects in this game that made it an absolute chore to go through in certain sections. Very seldom do I get motion sickness, but during a lot of the anti-gravity sections of this game, which it was really littered with it, and they were fun, don't get me wrong, but they were stressful for my stomach. In a lot of those moments, I felt nauseated and dizzy. It's one of the reasons why I never wanted to try VR. I get motion sickness and vertigo very easily. Not only that, but there were bugs and FPS drops riddled throughout the game. Games are complex creatures as a whole. There's a delicate balance that needs to be met, much like an ecosystem. There are bugs we can see, ones we cannot see, and ones that just break the game entirely. There was one game-breaking bug that happened to me during my time with Dead Space, where it wouldn't move on to the next segment of the game and I had to restart from a manual save, which was so annoying, and it got me so frustrated at a certain point because I was like, this shouldn't be happening with a PlayStation 5 title that's, what, $70? Almost $100 in Australia? Now, we all knew that games were going to start the high tick on the pricing. We all knew this. We all knew it was coming. It was a little bit belated, but we knew in general it was here. One thing that I'm not okay with is paying $70 for a game and have it be as buggy as Dead Space was. $70 for a remake that was extraordinarily hyped up. A little bit too much, if you ask me. This is not a diss on the developers. This is not a diss on the people who worked on it. They worked their asses off, and clearly it shows because so many people who love the original love the remake. I myself am just not one of those people, and I feel like even though someone has worked hard on something, it is always up for constructive criticism. Having finished this game in 13 hours, I feel a sense of incompleteness, as if there could have been more stories to tell within the world of the first game. I guess that's why there are 2 other Dead Space games that come after the first. Dead Space Remake had interesting points, some unique motifs, and a beautifully crafted atmosphere, but with a story that lacked immersion. This game raises a point that I implore you all to think on. Just because a game is a classic doesn't mean that it's going to be fun or reach everyone in the same way. But you guys, that was my review of Dead Space Remake. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit that bell down below. I make videos every day here on YouTube. May you find your worth in the waking world, dear hunter. Stay casually nerdy, and I'll see you all in the next video. Umbasa.